I'll give my disclaimer really quickly here first. When we planned this, we didn't realize how many other things were happening tonight to keep people away. We have things at the chamber, there are things in Riverside. This is Holy Thursday, and a lot of churches are having their feet washing Lord's Supper celebrations on Thursday. So, between serving God and serving our country, I thank you for coming out. I believe an informed citizenry is the best defense for democracy to survive and thrive, because we are the people, and our lives, no matter what we do, have direction, meaning, and worth. And so, even though we're very few, I would like Bonnie Garcia and Philip Drucker and Alex, I'm so sorry, Ramirez. I've always just called you Alex, and I don't know you, and Glenn Miller to sit up here, and in any order that they choose. And we'll give them each about 5 minutes to talk about themselves, their qualifications, and if elected, what they plan to do. And then we can ask questions. So, gentlemen, are you ready? Okay, we'll start with Glenn and just go down if that's all right.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you very much for all coming. I know it's been probably a long day for all of you. I think a lot of us have been out campaigning or out doing things all week long too, so we appreciate it. Very busy day, but for you to take the time out of your busy schedule. I'm Glenn Miller. I'm a sitting councilman for the city of Indio and past mayor for the city of Indio, which is the largest city in the Coachella Valley. And it encompasses this new district, not only the Coachella Valley from where I'm from, but all the way up into this area. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the 28th Senate District, it actually is one of the newer districts. There is no incumbent, so what you see here are the people that are running, except for Alex who's speaking for Mr. Stone. We are running for an open seat, and it basically encompasses everything from Blythe to everything in between, to Desert Hot Springs, to Palm Springs, comes over the mountain, takes in everything, Idlewild, Anza, mountain passes, all the French Valley, Garden Valley, drops into beautiful Temecula, Marietta, Wildemeyer, Canyon Lakes, and here beautiful Lake Elsinore and a small part of Corona. So it's a very diverse district, and it has a great opportunity to be able to be the envy of the state because of the resources we have. You know, my qualifications not only come with my ability to get along with both sides, I'm a leader that's able to work with both groups. I'm a conservative Republican, but I've worked at the local level with all kinds of different organizations to make things happen, and not only the Coachella Valley through regional aspirations. I'm the chairman of the Sunlight Board, which is our local transportation commission, and also the regional water agency that we have. We have a new water agency that is a reclamation board between our area water authority and the Valley Sanitation District. So I've been able to work at the highest levels at our local level to be able to bring fruition to not only the city of Indio, the Coachella Valley, the district, and the county of Riverside. So I think my skill set is level of ability to work with both sides is going to make a big difference in this district, because this district is so diverse. It is so much in need of new aspirations, new jobs, and new opportunities. And we have those opportunities in this district if we can start creating the jobs and opportunities we need. In the Coachella Valley, where I've been coming from, we have $5 billion industries. Up here you have the wine country, of tourism. You have a lot of opportunities if we can start working towards new educational goals by getting in more vocational schools, getting in internships and working towards academies, so that when we bring the jobs into this district, as we start to diversify, as we start to utilize the resources we have together, the youth and the new people that are coming into this district will have jobs that are well-paid jobs to come forward. The opportunities that we have here, because of the district and how diverse it is, gives us the opportunity at this present time to make this district into what we want it to be. And high-paying, well-paying jobs is the only way we're going to get out of this. We're not going to be able to continue to tax our way out of it. And this is going to have to come back with local control. And I've been able to do as a city councilman, as mayor, is work with local establishments to make sure our goals are met. Because this district really needs to get back to what you guys want it to be. You're the citizens, you're the ones that should be deciding how your tax money is being spent. You need somebody like myself to go up to Sacramento that's going to bring the tax dollars and resources back to you, so your local elected officials, no matter where they are, the school boards, the water districts, the college districts, your local elected officials like Bob McGee that's here and the other council members, that they have the resources that you've told them to do to come back and bring those resources so that you decide what you want in your district. Because this community is very, very diverse, and what we need to do is get back to local control. The only way you can do that is bring the tax dollars back to your local representatives to create those opportunities. You decide what happens. I have no goal to go up to Sacramento and work for Sacramento. I'm going to be in your district every chance working for you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Glenn.
Hello, folks. My name's Alex Ramirez. I'm here on behalf of Jeff Stone. We apologize for not being able to be here. He had other engagements that we had scheduled prior to knowing about this event. But just so you know a little bit about myself and why I chose to work with Jeff. First of all, I am the county chair for the Riverside County Republican National Hispanic Assembly. I'm also the political director for the Southwest Young Republicans. And I've been working in community involvement for a long time and working in the political spectrum. But the reason why I chose to work for Jeff is just his character, his history of being productive and getting things done, getting results. And in a time where our area, the district that Glenn spoke about, is so big and there's so much of a need for jobs, Jeff has actually done that. A few things that you should know about Jeff, besides being on the council of Temecula and being mayor, he's actually a county supervisor. He's been in the public spectrum serving the community for over 20 years now. And some of his goals are to go up to Sacramento and change the way business is done up there. Unfortunately, Sacramento has a history of not producing much and more than anything, a history of hurting us. And proof is in the pudding. We're in essentially a recession. There are no jobs. Companies are leaving the state. And during this whole time that this is going on, Jeff has made a turn for the Southwest area. He's actually the reason why we have the project going on in wineries. It's an EB5 project that's going to create over 1,700 jobs. He's part of the reason why we have some of the new infrastructure going in along the 79. He's been instrumental in changing this community and this area. And his goal is to go up there and change the way things are done in Sacramento. He wants to make sure that when we have character, ethics, and we start doing serving the interests of the community. 2, he wants to bring jobs back to the area. A lot of people talk about creating jobs. He has a history of creating those jobs and following through, so they're not just some basic warehouse jobs or just some basic jobs where people are working 9 to 5 and not getting anywhere in life. He wants to bring a stability to the community that people can improve and to use it as a stepping stone to further the lives of themselves and their children. Jeff is the person I look up to. Being younger and in a time when people are just very complacent, the youth and the millennial generation, it's a very me generation. I take Jeff's example of working for himself, establishing his pharmacy, growing that, and just doing a lot to the community. Working with Jeff, I've met tons of people who will always tell me how kind and how great of a person he is, how he would personally go drop off prescriptions to people's homes through his pharmacy. People who couldn't pay, he would just automatically give them the prescriptions without charging them. And that kind of character and that kind of willingness to do those kind of things for people without publicity, without notoriety, just made me respect the man a heck of a lot more.
30 seconds.
The fact that he works in a nonpartisan seat, and he's been able to do that for years, and proving that he can do it, 1, on the local level in Temecula, 2, to be able to do it at the county level, it's a no-brainer. It's a step. It's the next step, and I think it's the right move for our district, and hopefully we'll vote for him to support. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Bonnie Garcia, and I am the proven conservative in this race. I had the honor and the privilege of representing Riverside County and Imperial County in the California State Legislature. I won in a district that was about 61% Democrat, 21% Republican in Imperial County, and the numbers were about even in the Riverside portion of the district. It was an uphill battle to win that election, but what it proved was that the right candidate on the right issues can win any race. And when you win, it's also important that you work with the other side to make improvements in our economy, improvements in our community, and to bring resources back to our community that matter, where we can put partisan bickering aside. During the time that I served in the legislature, I also was vice chair of the Housing Committee for the state of California. We worked on housing bonds, and we worked on issues for affordable housing and senior housing, and finding worksite housing where people can ride the train or take a bus to work. And those kinds of projects were important, but not more important than what already existed in our community. And I understood that issue a lot more than most candidates because I had been housing director for local cities and had worked on community-based projects for 10 years prior to coming into the legislature. In fact, my first job was working at the fire department, writing citations for junk cars and doing business license inspections. I went on to write grants for the police department, went back to college in my 30s, got my degree, and I have a degree in education and workforce development. After I left the legislature, I went to teach at Chapman University in public policy, and I understood it from a different perspective, not as the elected official, not as the staffer, but now having understood how a good idea becomes a law and what it takes to become a law. In this election, the most pressing issues on our community are education, as my colleagues have stated, job creation, but we also have to look at Prop 13. We have an attack right now that, Prop 13 has stood for more than 3 decades here in the state of California, and it has prevented people, seniors like myself, because I'm in the over 50 crowd, from losing their homes. And that's something that we have fought hard to keep and protect, and it's an issue that I'm going to take head on. Obamacare, even though it's been rolled out at the federal level, it impacts every Californian. I am a small business owner, and I'm one of those people that lost their insurance, had to buy it on the secondary market, at about 100% increase in my premium. So I'm concerned not that the costs have gone up so much, but that I'm not going to be able to see a real doctor in many cases. We have dumbed down medicine so that practitioners and nurses will be our caretakers, and I think there's something wrong with that. So we need to address how medical care is being carried out and what it costs the average citizen so that we have access to it. And when we're looking at the small business sector in our economy, not only do we have to create jobs, but before anybody can get a job, you have to get some education. And right now, too many kids are falling through the cracks. Less than 50% of them are graduating school. The ones that do can't read, write, or speak English, can't use a computer, can't do math. You know that when you go to the store and they can't even add up your correct change. We need to change that. We need to prepare our workforce for the future, and I think it requires a legislator that represents the community, that understands the community, that has the education, the experience, and the gumption to go up there and work with both sides of the aisle, not say that they're going to work, but has actually proven it. In this campaign, I have the endorsement of every Republican senator in the state, almost every assembly member, including your local Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez, and the past 3 state party chairmen, several congressmen that have worked with me when they served in the assembly, including Kevin McCarthy and Paul Cook. I am the former wife of a military man. My children were born at military bases in Puerto Rico and here in California, and he also went on to work in law enforcement. So public safety, our liberties and freedom, our rights and responsibility as citizens are important to me. I've spent 25 years working in public service, and then I also had the honor of working as an appointee of the governor in running the Unemployment Division's judicial branch for the state of California. I did such a great job that Governor Brown kept me on. And so that shows your ability to transcend party lines and do what's right for California. So I would be honored to have your support.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just first want to thank you all for having me here today. I hope it's not a mistake that you invited the only Democrat here tonight. That doesn't happen too often, but I'm very, very pleased to be here tonight. With that said, this is the first time I've ever run for any office whatsoever, so I don't have any stories about my past necessarily in legislature to tell you. But I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Los Angeles. My father worked for the Department of Water and Power for 38 years. We never had a lot of money, but he did take care of his wife. He did buy a house, and he did raise 3 children. Again, we sort of had that typical sort of lower middle income background that I come from. With that said, one of the things that was also extremely important, which I keep with myself as well, is that my father was very big in education. Nobody from either my mother or my father's side ever graduated from college. I was the very first one who did. I graduated from UCLA in 1981. After that, my brother graduated from George Washington University. So after that, my sister graduated from UCLA. Now, both myself and my brother became lawyers, interestingly enough. And my sister didn't go into business. She decided to raise a family. Now, since that time, I spent 15 years ago, I went back to law school, actually, as a secondary learner. I've been a lawyer, I've been a professor, and I've been a dean of the law school. And right now, at this time, I'm a professor and a dean at California Desert Trial Academy over in India. Now, because of that, I'm used to having persons put their faith into me, their faith and their trust. This is the type of experience that I've had before. And I understand that by now stepping up into this arena, I am asking a greater number of people with a greater number of issues to put their trust in me. However, I come from a solid middle-class background. I think I can relate to Americans. I think I relate to everyone at all levels, economically and otherwise. And I think that, in fact, I would be a good choice to bring just common sense experience that we all know what is the right thing to do. And if you send me to Sacramento, I will do the right thing for all of you. Thank you.
Everyone was succinct and quick to the point. Let's start with Philip and go back this way. Just tell us about your family. Are you married? Do you have children? That kind of information would be useful.
Oh, okay. Actually, I'm not married. I do have a partner of 10 years, Harriet, who is sitting in the audience right now. I do not have any children.
Okay. Fine.
And I am divorced. I have 2 children. My daughter, Melissa, is 28, and she has blessed me with 2 beautiful granddaughters. They're featured right here in my brochure, Ava and Ella, and I have a son that's a correctional officer in the state of Nevada. I come from a very large family, I'll just add that. My mother had 8 brothers and sisters. My father had 17. So I have a huge extension, and like Philip, my sister was the first one to go to college and graduate. I was the second, and unfortunately I did it in my 30s. After, following my husband around the world with the military, I went on a long track.
Jeff is married and has 3 children, and one of them is actually currently working for the district attorney out in the east, out in the desert. He's committed, loving husband, and one of the things I admire about him and his wife, very supportive. They're always out walking together when they're out walking precincts, and it's refreshing to see. Having been in the political arena, you don't always get to see the partners and their support and their willingness to be there, and it's refreshing to see that.
I've been very blessed to be married to my wife Stephanie for 13 years now. We have 3 children. My daughter is my oldest one. She works at Wall Street, and she's 30 years old. I have another son that's 29 who works for Marriott, and my youngest boy is 27. He's a produce manager. So I've been very blessed to have 3 great kids that graduated from college and gone on great careers. And I've been blessed with 2 grandchildren. So I've got a great family. I've been very fortunate.
Great. Audience members, would you like to ask any one of the candidates to respond on any specific topic, such as education or finances, or the kinds of jobs they would like to bring into the area?
I have a question. I'm a registered independent. I call myself a recovering Democrat. So I didn't want to be a Democrat anymore because I didn't want them to expect my vote all the time. But I understand the Democratic point of view, and I understand that California is a very Democratic state, and until just recently they had a supermajority. But if you read the news, I read the Washington Post and the New York Times, they see California as becoming more and more and more Democrat as the older people grow up and replace all the old white people. Going up there, 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat, how do you see that? I understand the Inland Empire is very Republican, but it seems like the Inland Empire will eventually in 20 years be Democratic as well. How do you see that yourself as being, Republican and a Democrat?
I'm more than happy to take it. I see it as a benefit, to be honest with you. The thing about working at the local level, and I see Councilman Thomas is here, is that you learn to work with both sides. I have been very fortunate enough to be known for getting things accomplished and getting things done. I'm a leader that can work across the aisle if I need to do it. And I have. And if you look at my literature, I have as many supporters from the Democratic Party as I have the Republican Party, because I've earned their respect by working with them to solve problems. When you're at the local level, you don't ever worry about how people take things. You worry about how you create opportunities for the people you represent, and you represent everyone. That's how I anticipate going to the state level. You need to work across the aisle, because it is a Democratic state up there, but that doesn't mean they don't have the same ideas and values that you do to create jobs, education, opportunities. You need to work with both sides. Your independents, your Democrats expect you to represent them if you're Republican or not. That's what you need to do. That's what I intend to do. And if you look at my literature, like I said, I have many elected officials that are Democrats as Republicans, and I also have support from very many groups like the California Highway Patrol, California Department of Fire, that are more leaning towards the Republican Party. But I also have the trade unions that want to create jobs and opportunities, and the agriculture industry that lean other ways, because they know that I'm there to solve problems. You need to work with both sides. It takes all of us to be able to make sure we have the district we want.
I'm representing Jeff, so from what I know, then I'll answer it this way, saying I would disagree with Mr. Miller that it's not a good thing that there's a supermajority of those, a majority of Democrats. I know Jeff, and I personally believe as well that there should be a balance, that you can't just have the supermajority and call everything one way and forget the representation of the other, regardless of how big the Democratic Party gets. Coming from a minority who used to be a Democrat, became a Republican, when I became a business owner, I believe, and I'm sure Jeff would agree 100%, that there should be a balance, and there always should be some representation of the conservative movement and of the independent business owner. Because I think that's what's been forgotten and lost in the shuffle and in the supermajority. It's scared business away. It's taken controls of our educational system, our public works, everything. And unfortunately, it's swayed the community and the state in a direction that right now is not going in a good direction. And with the representation that's up there, and that's been up there, and proven track record of not exactly having the most ethics and morals, I think it's time for some change. At least, maybe not all the way Republican, but at least get closer to the middle. I think government works better when you're forced to have dialogue, forced to come to the table and both put your problems on there and find a common solution that doesn't appease everybody but works best for everybody.
I will say it this way. I think that all Californians have a couple of issues that we all have in common. We want all of our kids to be educated, to have greater opportunities than we did. We all want safe streets, and we all want to keep whatever wealth we build so that we can live a long life and be able to live comfortably in our old age and be able to protect it. That's what we all have in common. It's not new that the Democrats have been in the majority for many years, not just now. Now the only shift is that we have a supermajority. But that supermajority was recently broken when 3 state senators were indicted, investigated, one even convicted for unethical behavior, illegal behavior. Things like bribery and not living in their district, misrepresenting where they lived. One being investigated for trading his support for cash. That's unacceptable for public servants. It's not only unacceptable at the state level, it's unacceptable at the local level. If your city council, if your school board member, if your water board member is being investigated, if there's if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And if there's anything about that local person that is unethical, you can expect that same behavior at the state level. So we ought not elect those type of leaders. I think, to Dan's question, this state is not becoming more Democrat, it's becoming more declined to state. Because more and more people want to get away from the rhetoric, and they want to get to solutions. And what we are also seeing within the Democrat Party, you just saw it here in the last couple of weeks, we had a shift between the Black and Latino caucus and the Asian members of the Democrat caucus, because one section was pushing for affirmative action and lowering the bar so that we can increase the number of minority students going into schools, and the Asian caucus was saying no, only the best qualified, those kids that have prepared themselves, should be getting into the best schools. I don't know about you, but I don't want a dumb doctor operating on me. I don't want, someone that failed math doing my accounting. I don't want a lawyer that's not prepared to do the research to be my attorney. And so, you're seeing even factions within the Democrat Party itself. In the 6 years that I served in the legislature, what I learned really quickly is you check your ego at the door and you stay focused on solutions, and you work with your colleagues on both sides of the aisle to do what's best in your community. And you find some common ground to advance good public policy, even if you don't get credit for it. There are good laws in this state, like driving without a cell phone. I authored that bill. Eliminating trans fats. I authored that bill. Your menu count in restaurants, because I wanted better nutrition. My mother was dying of heart disease and diabetes. I authored that bill. And none of those had my name on it. That's how we get good public policy in California, and what we do is we work towards the middle. So as far as I'm concerned, not a D, not an R, not an independent. I just want people to elect good, solid leaders that represent them. Because nobody in Sacramento or Washington votes for me.
Okay.
Well, being a Democrat, I see that somewhat differently. The reason why I'm very proud to be a Democrat, though, is because, and again, speaking for myself, is I'm very issue-driven. I'm very interested in the issues. I'm not interested in personalities. I'm not interested in psychological and non-psychological and sometimes pathological points of view that may come up or not come up. I think that within the Democratic Party right now, you have a much wider range of possibilities. I think you have liberal Democrats, you have centrist Democrats, and you have conservative Democrats, you have blue dogs, you have all sorts of different areas of persons within that party that you can actually find a very large range of dialogue on a very large number of issues. And because of that, I feel that within that party, I'm more likely to find persons who have a like mind to mine, who may share a viewpoint that's closer to mine. And so that's why I'm very glad to be a member of the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Any other questions? Steve?
We have the drought. Drought has affected our community, our region, overwhelmingly. We'd like to go ahead and see some sort of resolution for this. That costs money. How do you folks feel about the twin pipelines that we're proposing to come down from the Sacramento Delta and the Delta area to go ahead and address that issue? And, especially for the Republicans, I don't feel that we're even being addressed, that our concerns are not even being presented, they're not even at the table. How do we go ahead and get involved with that conversation and make sure that the water quality and the availability of water in this region continues in the distant future?
Okay, let's start back with Mr.
Sure. Well, you have to, whenever you have anything that has to do with water, you have to start with a very simple starting point, which is that basically 2/3 of the water in California is in the north. 2/3 of the people live in Southern California. That's the fact that drives all water decisions. Now, obviously, the easy answer is get 1/3 of the people to relocate to the north. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So what we're going to have to do is look for more intricate and more balanced solutions to our water problems. And what I think is really one of the better ideals is starting sort of at the backward, moving backwards, is I think that we should start to look at the regions themselves. In other words, you're talking about the Delta, which is up north in the San Joaquin Valley. Well, what can really be done with that water that started there? Maybe should stay there. Maybe that's one way to look at it. Maybe if we're down here in the desert, maybe we should start looking at what you should do in the desert because we're in the south and we don't have enough water. Maybe people should not be planting lawns. Maybe we should shut down half the golf courses. Oh, that will go on. Sorry about that. But nonetheless, I think that what we have to do is start looking locally for solutions and trying to find ways to conserve and use our water more efficiently within what we have in these areas. Otherwise, what we're invariably going to do is to keep continuing the water wars. That's what's going to happen. So that's my answer to the question.
Well, in my experience, this has not been a new issue. I represented Imperial County, and Imperial County was at war with San Diego County over the water. We ended up doing some fallowing and some transfers, which had an immediate impact on a community that is primarily a farming community. We lost, thousands of jobs in that region, an area that was already experiencing about 30% unemployment. And you're right, there are more people in the South, but we also are very wasteful in how we use our water. We have not done anything in California. Our water policy is so old. We have done nothing in the legislature, and we have not pushed it on the voters to support us in conserving water and doing water storage. We've been very wasteful with our water in utilizing fresh water for golf courses, for example, or even in our landscaping in our homes. We have not encouraged through our water districts more conservation, more landscaping that's particular to a certain region, for example, in the desert. We've been really doing it on a voluntary basis, and we should not be doing anything on a voluntary basis when we're facing a drought situation. I don't agree with building a twin pipeline from the north to the south, because even the routing on that is going to be an uphill battle when we're battling the environmentalists. But we also understand that, water is made for water is made for fighting, and whiskey is made for drinking, right? It's the old adage. But anyone that has any water rights is going to be fighting for those water rights, because if you have no water, you can't build. You can't grow your development, and if you can't grow your development, you can't grow and stabilize your economy. So for me, we need to get very serious about storage. We need to get very serious about conservation. We need to end the wasteful spending, wasteful use of water, and we need to use technology. Nobody likes to hear it, but we have many municipalities doing toilet to tap. We have municipalities looking at desalination and ion technology, etc. We need to explore all those options before we start digging through our state and building any kind of pipeline. Thanks.
I would say, based on the information that Jeff's received, Riverside County and the water districts up here have done a great job. I'm not sure how many of you have ever gone to a water board meeting, but we have plenty of water reserves for ourselves. Now, the problem is down the line, we're going to have to start sharing that water with other areas, specifically the Southern California area. But to be more specific and answer Steve's question is, the Republicans do need to have a voice at the table. And I think the way to get a voice at that table is to have somebody come up with a common sense, right approach legislation that's going to bring everybody to the table. That nobody's ever going to be happy. The North is never going to want to give up their water, and the South needs it, but the North needs the South's economic and infrastructure that we have down here. So it would take a strong Republican leader to take charge, take initiative, come up with something creative that works at least for the next 20, 30 years. Because you can't project what's going to happen down the line. Unfortunately, California, we are in a drought, but hopefully things will change. But in the meantime, we need somebody just to take charge and represent this area and the voice for the Republican Party, if it is a Republican seat, so we don't lose the current reserves that we do have.
Well, I'm in the golf business. I build golf courses in my life. I'm a water expert, so I've been in it for a while. So trust me, the golf industry is $1 billion industry in this region. Not only are 20% of all the golf courses that encompass in the state of California in the Coachella Valley, 24% of them in this district itself. So not only is it an economic interest, but it is also an economic benefit to this community. The water conservation we need to do is we have to start with the simplest, water conservation. A lot of the HOAs and other organizations are very inefficient with the water, so we need to set rules at the local level to conserve water in our places of business, in our homes, in our HOAs, and even our golf courses at the present time is doing a 20% reduction, mandatory among ourselves to be able to save water, which is about 20 million gallons a day in the Coachella Valley alone. But what we have to do is water storage too. We have to look outside the box so that when water is being rainwater, drainage water, and things, that it can be utilized for use in other organizations, either from large grass areas or for golf courses or other areas like that. We need to bring tertiary water into compliance where it can be utilized not only for golf courses and school districts, but also as time goes on with osmosis and other kinds of new filtration, you can use that water to put back into your aquifer so that it's blended in with the rest of the water. And it is very safe and very clean. They do it all over the place. Desalination is something else we need to look at. Any area along the coast should probably think about desalination. The ocean doesn't unlimited water. The problem with it is it takes a lot of energy and it costs a lot of money. But what is development going to go forward with? We cannot continue to develop our properties, develop our city, develop our region until we can control our water. So they were very accurate in what they're saying. Water is going to be the blend of what we do to keep economic moving forward, but you also at the same time got to protect your industry and your economics at the present time too, because property values go along with golf courses. The last part of that is we have a big issue with the Salton Sea, which is going to affect us very efficiently, very shortly, as the 2017 when the new quantified easement goes through, where all the water that was supposedly going into the Salton Sea will now be utilized in San Diego, who has no water. And that bed there will start to dry up, which will cause economic hardship on all of Southern California. So there's a lot of issues that need to happen with water. Everybody needs to sit down at the table and look at how we solve these issues. But every time it rains, all you see is water going down to the ocean. So that tells you one thing right there and there. But it's going to take all of us working together to solve this problem. Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Steve?
The education of children, not the education of people who are already adults. If elected, which of you will introduce legislation for a voucher system in California?
For what?
A voucher system in California. It's been about 20 years since the last attempt, which failed. And it's due. It's overdue. Which of you will do that? I just need to know yes or no.
I would. And I would for this reason. I'm a strong supporter of charter schools. I have the support of charter schools in this election. And I believe in parental choice for schools. I think, as I shared with you, I have granddaughters that are 4. They go to the Episcopalian school. And I'm hopeful that they will continue to go to parochial school throughout their career. Because frankly, unless they have access to a charter school, which allows parental involvement and uses our tax dollars, in my opinion, wisely, to allow parents to be involved in not socializing our kids, but in educating them. Until we do that kind of education for all kids that go to public school, I will be a strong advocate for charter schools. And I do support parental choice and the use of vouchers. You know, we had a change in state law recently that allowed parents to move their kids outside of district boundaries to a school of their choice when their schools were failing. That's not enough. As you've seen recently, we have passed a law here in California that, for example, allows kids that self-identify as transgender to use facilities of the other sex, the opposite sex. That's not okay with me. It's not okay with me as a parent. My kids swam, and they also did cross-country, they did soccer. I would not be comfortable with my 4 or 5-year-old granddaughter changing clothes with a 4 or 5-year-old boy, or a 9-year-old boy, or a 17-year-old boy in her locker room. I think that we've gone too far on social agendas and not focused on education and on the values that families should be teaching at home and of the lessons they should be teaching at home. We've inserted government into that decision. I also think that vouchers are useful, especially in areas where the public schools have failed the community. We've seen that in Los Angeles with that teacher that was spoon-feeding these kids cookies that had a semen on it. That's unacceptable to me. And it was unacceptable to me when there was a battle in the legislature to quickly fire those types of teachers, and the Democrats killed that legislation. So as a parent, I want a choice, and whether it's a voucher or a charter school, I want what's best for my child. Alex?
I would say that I'm not exactly sure if he would introduce legislation. Even if you were to introduce the legislation, I doubt that it would pass. Unfortunately, this government that we have in California has a proven track record of not taking the right approach and the common sense approach and putting kids first. They talk all about putting kids first and education first, but the proof is in the pudding. Our schools are failing. I mean, California's educational system is the worst in the nation, and that's not going to change if we keep the current system and the current lobbying groups and the current people that are in charge and in place. Now, if we have a little bit more balance, any representative that brings it up, I think, would be more successful in getting something like that passed. But until we have balance in representation in Sacramento, it's going to be business as usual. So unfortunately, I can't give you a direct answer as a yes or no. It is the right approach and it is the right thing to do, but until we change Sacramento, it's not going to happen regardless of who introduces it.
And I'm not against the voucher system, but I think it has to be put in place so we also protect the funding for our local schools. We need to get back into not only the vouchering system for different opportunities, but we also need to get back into vocational schools. One of the things we've done out in the Coachella Valley is a lot of our local high schools have programs already set for academy, for cultural opportunities, for whatever they feel that their job unique skills might be. So we have a culinary school in one of our high schools, state of the art. We have a performing arts, we have an agriculture. So we've taken those positions, those jobs that have been created or needed in our valley are utilized in our schools, where they can either get that hands-on training and go straight into an opportunity job, or take those skills that they've done from the internships and their vocational school and go straight into college, because it's set up for college programs. So those opportunities there, I think you need some internships, you need to get academies in. So it's a combination of all of the above. But the opportunities, I think, are there if we will look at the funding and make sure we hold people responsible for the education of our kids. And it starts with us, and it starts with our school boards, to make sure that if they're not following through on what we've asked them to do, just like you do your local elected officials, that you replace them with something that will bring those opportunities.
I will not back the voucher system. I don't believe in them. I will not back them. I think that education is a fundamental right in the United States. I think it should be protected by the Constitution. In my mind, what we have to do is the hallmark of America has always been education for everyone. Therefore, I would put our efforts first in fixing the public system the best that we can before we go to what I think are exotic solutions that I do not believe will work. Sometimes it's tough being the Democrat.
Thank you. Steve, did you have another question?
Yeah, I'd like to know any solutions that any of the candidates may present in terms of resolving the overcrowding issues with our prison system.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask Alex, because he hasn't been called on first at all.
Having spoken to Jeff and hearing him speak as well, the correctional system is broken. AB 109 was supposed to be a solution, but it's actually only been a problem. It's the revolving door, and a perfect example of that right now is French Valley. You have inmates being released at any given hour going through people's community and causing damage, making noise in the middle of the night, where it's affected the county business and county funding, where funds had to be reallocated to start a program to transfer these individuals being released to some bus stop or some depot where they can be from there picked up out of the area. And that's unfortunate because the county only has so much money. Our tax dollars are already earmarked for a lot of different other things. We don't need to be spending and using a lot of these funds to transfer these inmates who already have proven not to be able to be responsible and ended up in a correctional facility or a detention center, and are going to go and cause property values to drop, damage to people's property. So I think the whole system needs to be revamped. We should revisit private prisons. We should take a look and see what we need to do about building more prisons. Unfortunately, regardless of what we do in the educational system, we have a large population that is just prone to crime. So until we give them either special training or until something is done to provide funds for them to change, we need to be able to house them to keep them from doing more damage.
Well, I think there's a very fundamental problem going on when we talk about realignment and things like that. You're talking about moving from states to counties and back and forth. And figuring out who's violent and who's not, who's a felon and who's not. But I think a more important issue that we should deal with first is decide what we want as the actual goal of our incarceration system. Do we want it to be punishment, or do we want it to be rehabilitation, or do we want it to be a part of each? What do we expect to accomplish by putting people in jail? Now again, I'm all for putting certain people behind bars. There are some bad people out there. There just are, and they need to not be among us. We need to keep them away from us. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I certainly understand recidivism rates. But on the same time, kind of pulling the lawyer card. Being a lawyer, I've met a lot of people who have committed crimes. And in my opinion, for the most part, they're very good people who just happen to have done something wrong. They've made a mistake in their lives. Sometimes it's a very bad mistake in their lives. And yes, they do have to pay for it. But how much punishment is enough until we decide that they've paid for their crime and we allow them to come back into society where they can actually do something that may help? They may be able to enter into restitution or something like that, something of that nature. There's simply no point in keeping people who are 79 years old in jail. They are no longer a threat to us. However, in the interest of punishment, as opposed to any type of other interest of rehabilitation, that's what we currently do. And so I think that that's where we should start. We should reevaluate what we want from our California prison systems.
Well, I had the unique experience of being in the legislature when we voted to pass bonds to build more prisons. I am a law enforcement supporter. I was married to a cop for 17 years. And while there are some people that can be rehabilitated, the majority of people that are turning through our system have broken the law, they've hurt, they've maimed, they've raped, they've kidnapped, they have no respect for the law. And what we're seeing with the prison overcrowding is a reaction. It's a symptom and not the illness. This existing governor, Governor Brown, decided that his solution was to shove the inmates out into the local community and empty the state prisons. We have another option. And that other option was to build more beds to house the worst of the worst. And what we're seeing currently is that our current counties have taken on the responsibility of housing inmates that should be, for many years, in state prisons. Our county jails were designed to hold people for 12 months or less. We have people in our county facilities that have sentences of 7, 10, and 14 years. They are not designed to provide the recreation, the health care, the education, the rehabilitation services they need. In fact, those hardcore prisoners are training the guys that may be in there for DUI. We have hardcore prison gangs in our current county facilities, and that's unacceptable. I think what we need to do is we need to buckle down, we need to build the extra beds that we need to take a closer look at our inmate population, and the 25% of our population that belongs in a mental institution should get the mental health services that they need. Those that are there for first-time offenses should get the rehabilitation services that they need. But those that have broken the law and have continued to disrespect and scare our citizens and continue to break the law in our communities should be housed indefinitely if necessary. I don't care if they're 79 years old, they still are prone to doing crimes. We've seen, rapists and child molesters come out and do it again, regardless of how old they are. And I am a law enforcement supporter, and I will fight to make sure that we allocate the right dollars so that we do just that. And that we toughen the penalties, so if you commit a felony, we're not dumbing down the crime.
Well, maybe one of mine is a habit in all our communities from small crimes. And that I've talked to the sheriff, I've talked to the DA about the issues at hand. There's no short, quick answer. Ms. Garcia makes a lot of sense on some of the issues at hand, but that's not going to solve the problems now. We need to come up with solutions that can take people that are on the streets now that are being let out early because their sentences are being suspended or declined because they're the least of the worst that are going out. We need to make sure that the prisons that we have are filled to capacity with the ones that need to be in there. On the state level, they should be housing the people that have done the crimes that the humanity can do. At the local level, and the sheriff and our county jail should be set up for the people in between. We need to have rehabilitation on the ones that we can rehabilitate, drug offenses, things like that. We have opportunities through agencies that will be able to rehabilitate some of them, get them the help they need. The mental health institutes that need to have people at hand need to be put into positions that they can get the help they need. And then the rest of the ones that are set up there, we have these jails that have been set aside. There's one in Norco that can be rehabilitated. We have a couple of our bases that have been closed that we can house inmates of less crimes in there. We've got to think outside the box, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is to think of the ways that we can utilize some of these other facilities. When we have our school children that are in trailers, we have our soldiers that are protecting their lives in tents, but we have to put our prisoners in certain cells to make sure they have the amenities they need. Something doesn't make sense. We need quick solutions that we need to give the prosecutors and our sheriffs and our law enforcement people the tools they need, and make sure that we put these people in areas where we can hold them until we can figure out exactly where we go with the rest of them. And if not, then we really need to look outside the state and put some of our prisoners that are causing crimes or continuing to cause crimes in agencies outside and pay to have it until we provide this jail spaces we need.
Thank you. It is 8:05, and because several of these people came long distances to be here, I'm going to end our meeting at this time. You can visit with them one-on-one. I do want to recognize Joyce Hohendahl as the treasurer of our Lake Elsinore Citizens Committee. And for those of you that are here, if you are interested in having the congressional candidates next month, please either speak to Joyce or myself or Dan, who is our secretary, because we want to give everybody as much opportunity to get information. I know that we're not very well represented tonight, but our community is a very solid community that cares about serious issues. And we have very good people here who are regular voters. And so even though we are few in number, we will do what we can to spread the message that all four of you have presented. And thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You all did interesting presentations tonight. And the Lake Elsinore Citizens Committee is a nonprofit organization, and all our tax forms have been filed, and the Secretary of State and Department of Justice, so we're all squared away. So thank you again.
Thank you.